Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Let's get jumping in with the Iraqi dinar and related topics. It looks like there's an article out yesterday that's talking about the Iraqi embassy opens the horizons of cooperation with Egyptian businessmen and investors to work in Iraq. I bring it up because we know that there's going to be a reconstruction effort, and some of these guys have expertise in their in what they do. They have experience in road building, etc. And I'll just get to a few things. But the presence of a major Egyptian companies specialized in energy, pharmaceutical industries, and transport is important to transfer Egyptian experiences to the Iraqi market. Remember, we got many different countries in the region, and they're all focusing in on Iraq, and so now major companies are coming in. It says especially since the number of companies is increasing day by day, so it's like they're moving in, they're starting to do this. So that's really kind of good, because that just tells us the story that Iraq will be going international relatively soon. Sooner the better as far as I'm concerned. It says Egyptian companies have a great willingness to open the horizons of joint cooperation and investment in Iraq with the aim of achieving stability and economic growth, transferring that Egyptian experience and expertise into the Iraqi market. Achieving sustainable development, which is a common goal for Iraq and everybody, World Bank, Bank of International Settlements, you name it. So sustainable development, providing jobs, diversifying sources of income in the country. Of course, they've been talking about non-oil revenue streams, and promoting the economic and social future of Iraq. So basically, investors are expressing themselves and in their happiness in increasing the volume of trade and economic exchange in Iraq, probably no doubt, because they're going to be making some bank, especially after the stability of the security situation. We've been talking about that, security and development. That's what we're talking about here, security and development. So which has become, because of the security situation, Iraq has become attractive to the presence of Egyptian companies in Iraq, and the transfer of Egyptian experiences in development projects in many fields, such as the energy, housing, roads, agriculture, and medicine, like they've just mentioned, and with the aim of transferring that presence again to the Iraqi market. And they're going on to say that they're especially happy with because Iraq has become a safe and attractive environment for investment for all agricultural and industrial sectors. Egypt is basically having great experiences in construction and reconstruction in series of projects that is implemented already over the past 10 years. So it sounds like Egypt is fully qualified in doing a lot of these things that Al Sudani has been happy to talk to him about and get things rolling. So that's pretty good. The next article I want to talk about is going to be the Urgent Quartet is meeting on the path of development, and the announcement of important timings for the completion of the FAO ports. This is a good article. You can find it in patreon.com with MM and Crew. And I would suggest come on in, read up so that you know what we're talking about. But anyway, this coordinating committee of 4 parties, we have Iraq, Turkey, UAE, and Qatar at this time. And this is their second meeting that they had at the headquarters of the company of the Iraqi Railway. So they're going to build a railroad, and they're going to have from the Port of Fa all the way up into Turkey, etc. That's what I get from it. The meeting of the coordinating committee of 4 countries on the development road was held today, Friday, which was yesterday, you guys. Headquarters, the general company of Iraqi Railways in Baghdad, to see the latest developments, follow up on the development road project in preparation for the upcoming ministerial meeting in the Turkish capital. So they're not stopping, they're going to keep doing, and everybody's motivated. Basically, this coordinating committee needed to just basically state that there's support the development road project with all available capabilities to these countries. And their one main thing that they talk about is the absolute support for the Iraqi state to complete this project. That's pretty good. And what else are they talking about? They want to accelerate the pace of the work of the Prime Minister Shia al-Sudani, as he's been keen to follow up, is fast, real fast. So anyway, the project looks to be moving along very well in accelerated pace. The 4 parties involved basically have a vested interest in this, getting things done and quickly. I think al-Sudani is all over that. They'll basically, I think they're going to equate this to internationalism here pretty quick, because they haven't done all this stuff at 1,310 dinar. So we're going to have to see how this is all going to be accomplished. But we haven't seen al-Sudani finalize that 23, 24, 25 budget yet, and we got a probably good idea that we all know why. The role of the Iraqi Stock Exchange in supporting monetary policy in Iraq. This is a good article too, you guys. The gentleman puts it out. He's a lawyer. He's a banking expert, and he talks a little bit about a lot of things. Actually, there's a couple pages, but it says the stock markets have become part of the general economic strategy of governments and central banks, especially after the introduction of the idea of cryptocurrencies and digital banks, as they directly affect consumption, investment, and economic confidence. So basically, like item number 1, encouraging local and foreign investment. Number 2, it says diversifying the economy from excessive dependence on oil. Of course, we know all of that. Absorbing liquidity. In that effect, it says the stock market can play an important role in absorbing excess liquidity in the economy. They go on to more in depth in this article, but it just gives you an idea that where this guy's head's going. He is also going to say that one of the most important economic theories that support the financial markets can be an effective tool in monetary policy is the wealth effect theory, which is summarized and almost consistent with the understanding the dialect of the Iraqi economy and the stock market economy. More consistent with the Iraqi model is the wealth effect theory. Greg Manikow, he says, it's a summary that the rise in the value of financial assets among individuals gives them an incentive to withdraw money and re-inject it into purchasing new assets and stocks in order to increase wealth, and gives them a feeling of wealth, which prompts them to spend and consumption develop to the national economy. So basically, in conclusion, the gentleman goes on and says these theories and studies support the idea that financial markets can be an effective and successful tool in achieving economic stability and enhancing the growth, especially in emerging markets such as Iraq. It is the Iraq stock market has been exploited in the right. If it is exploited in the right way, it will attract locals and international investments at the same time. It can help diversify the Iraqi economy and create new opportunities for lots of different people. It'll drive economic integration into Iraq, making the Iraq Stock Exchange a valuable tool for monetary policies. I think everybody can probably get a good idea with Iraq valuations on their companies. That's going to have their monetary reforms is going to have a profound effect on Iraq's economy. And when they adjust their currency to a real effective exchange rate, there's going to be a lot of happy people out there, because it's going to adjust their market, their stock market to it's going to go hand in hand. Okay, so those people that are invested already, you're going to do well, and they already are, from what I understand. But I think they're going to do even a lot better. But it would still be right for investment, in my view. I'm not a professional, but just for me personally, for me to potentially get a rabies account or someone like that, there's probably going to be many that'll probably be available, and that will be happy to be able to prepare to be able to buy in and out of shares, maybe in the banking sector, maybe in their steel sector, maybe in their cement sector, asphalt, whatever. You get food, clothing, tourism. They're going to have a lot of stock companies that'll probably have upgraded their portfolios to the point where they have disclosure statements. They will have public record of them filing proper filings on their business, their accounting, if you will. All of that stuff will happen. So it's good. In brief, we have a gentleman in our Patreon room. His background has been around accounting firms, and he's worked with some of the largest accounting firms in the world. and interestingly enough, I asked him a couple of questions and he gave me some answers. And one of the things I wanted to say is that, in brief, he's of the opinion that this merger, okay, having worked for Ernst & Young, and I think still gets a slice of Ernst's pie from working there so long. It says here, it's a necessary step that must be completed for the CBI can declare an international rate and go on Forex. So I think what he's trying to, well, not think what he's trying to say, but what he is saying, that this merger between these two major banks, which is the Rapidain Bank and the Rashid Bank, state banks, once that happens, it is not necessarily a step that must be completed before the CBI can declare an international rate and go live on Forex. He doesn't believe that it has to be completed just yet, but I think we're getting close because of, like I earlier said, that these bank mergers, the latter, or maybe just because I wrote it today, I don't remember now, but the point is that there was steps in the contracts for Ernst & Young to do things, and that's what their process has been doing since January 2024. And so at this stage of the game, they could be very much further along than we anticipate. But the point is that it says, he says that I'm of the opinion that banking reforms that are needed to enter as a sovereign currency is the ability to participate in Bank of International Settlements transactions via secure electronic platforms. The need for transparency is going to be really important, okay? Transactions, these AI transactions, if you will eliminate waste, theft, money laundering, and all of that is of the most importance. It's utmost importance. Corresponding relationships are very much necessary, so they're going to have to be good, high-quality communication. The merging of the banks appear to be, to him, a best practice with financial controls in place in their state banks and a method of increasing the value of shareholders, for instance, like the likes of Citibank or Chase Bank, UBS, etc. Okay, and others might be entering in as shareholders and corresponding relationships. Just some of those thoughts that might get people thinking, right? So that was pretty interesting that he sent me back that. So basically, I think what he's also saying is the efficiency of banks being reviewed now by Ernst & Young is engaging. And what are they trying to do? They're going to develop internal audit processes, or which are much different than financial statement audits. The internal audit projects is where Ernst & Young is probably going to be around for a long time, not just for a couple days or weeks or months, but likely for many years. The internal audit projects are normally long projects that can be renewed, okay? And so ultimately, what is it going to be for? Ernst & Young is going to make a lot of money off of Iraq to make sure that they have compliance. I have a belief that Ernst & Young doesn't necessarily have legal authority in the United States or can do business in the United States, but I think they can do international law, and so they're going to have a lot of things, a lot of good qualifications for Iraq, and that's probably why they got picked to do this work that they're doing, is because they're that good, and the world takes them very seriously, and they take their jobs very, very seriously, and those banks that may get merged and or get closed down, they would probably know about it and have known about it for a long time. Okay, so anyway, we'll move on to that because I'm not going to speculate anymore. But I want to thank JK for sending me that information and give me a little more insight on how this works and how they work a little bit, and that we may or may not need anything still, because a lot can do what he needs to do. This article here is about the National Union preaches to employees of the region. The salary crisis ended after its link to Baghdad. Okay, the one sentence that I like about this is the provincial government cannot delay the salaries of employees, especially after they've been linked to the central government. That was today, and these instructions are basically came out this morning. And look, the electronic linkage to Baghdad for payments has apparently been localized finally. So they've been working on this project for quite a while, and they finally have it done. Now it's a good sign that this linkage has been done, and now I guess we're going to be looking to see if we see any activation signs. Economic article. Replacing the relationship is not enough to solve the monetary crisis that was not accompanied by a new methodology. So this advisor, he's an expert economist, excuse me, he has spoken quite a bit lately, and he spoke quite a bit today, but in this particular article, he goes on to say, his name is Zayed Al-Hashimi, and you guys can look him up. He's got a pretty good resume, if you will. It says the issue of replacing the central bank governor Ali Al-Laq is not an adequate and effective solution to the monetary crisis suffered by the Iraqi economy, but rather the central bank and banking institutions need new and systematic approaches to get rid of the determinants and obstacles of the past to start a new page characterized by modernity in banking. They goes on to say there's a need for full screening and teams to save and reform situation inside Iraq, functional teams of experts, and teams from political parties supported by clear legislation and ready to enforce solutions systematically in the form of plans and programs. Well, the project to delete the zeros isn't something that's not new. The United States Treasury, U.S. Federal Reserve has been working hand in hand with Iraq for quite a long time. It isn't anything new. So my assumption there is that that's been taken care of. I think what would solve this problem, in effect, is that Al-Laq could solve this problem, and so could the central bank and the Federal Reserve. Why? Because they're going to put enough pressure on some of these banks. If you're not going to play ball, we're going to get rid of you. And I think the political side of the things, whether you're on one fence or the other, but there's definitely one side that's not playing ball, and they're going to have some issues, and that's why we're probably seeing some of these things being talked about. But the process is underway, and you can see with the mergers, the Ernst & Young, the State Bank, then down to the smaller ones, which was going to be the latter part of it. So that would be going, in my view, towards, of course, what they say, towards the end of their process. And so, because they were going to do subsequently, I think, 4 different steps and 4 different banks, mergers, etc., even into the real estate and into housing. So keep those in mind, because that's what these guys are talking about. And basically, I feel, because if you look at what Al-Sudani and some of these articles talk about they do things within specific time frames. They don't tell you what they specifically are, but they tell you that they're on a mission to do things in the time frames. So, things come into play, and so they have to adjust. And so sometimes time frames get kicked back. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're ahead of the game. A lot of the stuff that we've had in the past, we find that Al-Laq has been on top of his game. He might get a bad press on occasion and stuff, but ultimately he's done a very good job as far as I'm concerned. He's the guy that went from the Central Bank of Iraq, he went from there to the AMF. And he's on the board of directors, right? But now he's back with Iraq for what? Well, they said the project to delete the zeros is still underway. He's probably coming back, and has been back for some time, to finish the job. And that's what we're hoping for. And this gentleman says the central bank has become a victim because of these corrupt banks and dollar banks, in addition to the fact that the central bank has become, in his view, like a prisoner of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Well, basically, they may very well look like that, but the bottom line is if you're not playing by the rules, you're going to have problems. And that's just like compliance. Everybody knows that if you're not in compliance, the compliance department don't usually go away until you get in compliance, or there's going to be a problem. And that's where the push and shove comes in. Basically, he wants to make sure that keep this in mind, you guys, when you read this article. This article starts with the central bank does not have the upper hand over the banking system and financial and institutional corruption, right? But he goes on to say, if we assume the controversy over a presidential return to the White House, then the pressure will be greater on the Iraqi banking system, and therefore the dollar remains swinging more depending on political positions than economic changes. So, well, if we have a change in our our political side here in the United States, I think you know who he's talking about. So anyway, the last article I'm going to go over is the U.S. Federal Reserve adopts a new strategy towards Iraq. The dollar is threatened with rising at unprecedented levels. It's the Zayed al-Hashimi. You guys, if you want to look him up, do what you can Google it. He says that the corridors of the central bank indicates that the U.S. Federal Reserve has adopted a strategy different from its previous strategies towards the Iraqi economy, indicating that the strategy will be more stringent and will depend on three axes. The first axis is a continuation of the punishment of the previous banks, and there's no lifting on the sanctions on them, meaning that the ban on those banks trading dollars will continue indefinitely. The second axis, closing banks continue to violate federal controls related to money laundering, dollar smuggling, supporting sanctioned entities and countries. Third axis, preventing the Iraqi government from interfering in the dollar file, and for this file to be in the hands of the central bank only. Central bank only. The last axis explains the federal bank has detected political influences from the Iraqi government. That sounds like one of the neighbors. Noting that the Iraqi central bank today is in a very embarrassing situation, is almost in trouble, if you will, due to internal pressures on it to obtain larger space for the dollar and its circulation. So they go in here, he says, he stressed that the central bank will only be able to delay and postpone federal procedures for the longest possible period of time while achieving temporary protection for the Iraqi banking system and the Iraqi dinar. He states that the U.S. Federal Reserve will not be able to wait forever. And he goes on to say it's expected that there will be federal measures that may occur at any moment. I think that's pretty heavy, you guys. It says there will be a sudden and large demand for the dollar, etc. When they say that, they mean that they're going to have inflationary aspect of it. And al-Sudani and al-Alaq are not going to want that to happen. And so when they say that they will not wait forever, this is where push literally comes to shove. So I would highly recommend you guys take a look at this guy's article. This was done on the 25th. I didn't post it till today. So anyway, this article is an interesting one as it comes to that push comes to shove to the U.S. Treasury involved. There's clearly pressure happening now with the CBI and the U.S. Treasury, which regards to banks and their political motivation to play ball. And there are also those banks that are approaching closure over it today. Anyway, it sounds like the same guy on his feed. I think it was Instagram. I think it was not Instagram, Telegram. Anyway, somebody picked it up off his page. He has a site that he has. Being an economist, he has public media. But anyway, one of the things it's basically stating, I believe I have the quote here, is. Let's see. The Economist above today apparently is quoting as stating as, quote, the U.S. Federal Reserve to permanently close 5 banks, and there is a preliminary agreement between the U.S. Federal Reserve to merge smaller banks and create a larger entity. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. So they're talking about exactly what I have, and he's kind of confirming that this has been a powerful time frame. And if you guys come into the room at patreon.com, you guys, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet points from the man, snippets. We got it big time. It's a good article. I would highly recommend you read it and take a visit, because he's talking about Alaq, for instance, to Washington last week was not a positive one. Al-Alaq was reported by the American entities that there is a clear American indication of illegal practices by some banks, some Iraqi banks, and there's an assistance of the departments of those banks to violate rules and exploit the dollar. Iraqi support, smuggling, money laundering, dollar leakage to other countries outside of Iraq's borders, sanctioned entities. So he probably got a little bit of a chewing, okay? It says here that the Iraqi government has been warned again to not interfere with the dollar file and left this matter exclusively in the hands of the Central Bank of Iraq. Here's another one. The Iraq Central Bank is now in trouble and not in an enviable situation. It is a reality under the influence of banks owned by entities that have a political and security influence, enlarged armed force, that cannot force their owners to close them and lose a source that provides billions at the same time. The Central is receiving constant pressure and blows from the Federal Reserve to solve this defect. So again, like I said, this push comes to shove is it's getting hot, and these things are all happening as of recent. But the bottom line is, though, at the end of the day, all of this will reflect negatively on the fragile economic stability which the dinar and the citizens have and are under. The Iraqi have been the biggest affected. They will be the biggest affected and the biggest losers. So that's the pressure, you guys. Al-Sudani, Alak, Taif Sami, Fawad Hussein, everybody probably knows that when the central bank says that they're going to do something and they can't wait forever, the federal measures that may occur at any moment is a shot across the bow to be ready. Okay, thank you guys for being with me on Saturday afternoon. Hey, if you like, please hit that subscribe button. And all of your donations, I want to say thank you for all of those that have been doing that. You all know that PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo are places you can do that. And Militiaman and the crew, we appreciate all of you and all of your help and support. It helps keep this place going. Thank you so much and have a great day. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.